Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us at this news hour on Équinoxe Television. We are broadcasting from Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Badler Jonathan. In our top stories, in this edition of the news, pressure continue mounting on the International Monetary Fund and the Republic of Cameroon over the embezzlement or the alleged embezzlement of billions of francs CFA of COVID-19 funds by some state officials in the Republic of Cameroon. 11 women's groups have written to the International Monetary Fund in support of 20 other women leaders who wrote to the same organization recently over the COVID Gate or the COVID-19 funds scandal. We shall also take a look at the security situation in the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon and the impact of the close to 5-year-long armed conflict going on in Anglophone Cameroon on the people's cultures. Custodians of the people's cultures in the southwest and northwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon say the cultures are being adversely affected by the 5-year-long armed conflict going on in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. This is one of the areas of life affected by the Anglophone crisis that has been pulling on for close to 5 years today, leaving several persons dead, maimed, displaced, who are now refugees in neighboring Nigeria and some internally displaced in different parts of the Republic of Cameroon. Derek Jato reports on Boya.
The war in the Anglophone regions, apart from destroying properties and taking lives, is also eroding culture of a people, especially languages.
A Bafun man is he that is noted when it comes to his language and his culture and tradition. And despite the fact that they have been displaced alongside with their traditional barriers, their languages, and what have you.
Bafut in the northwest region of Cameroon is one of the areas reduced to nothing by the war. And today, Mayor Ngwakongo Lawrence, Mayor of Batibo Council, is in Boya.
The coming of the mayor and who doubles as the national chair of the Bafut Language and Cultural Committee, which the Bafut Manjong stands to uphold, to see that our culture and development become the primary key of almost everything that we do. We cannot but say that is a welcome initiative.
Meeting displaced Batibo sons and daughters, the mayor encouraged them to remain hopeful while donating some relief aid to these victims of the war.
Coming up, Derek Jato takes a look at the security situation in the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. The governor of the southwest region spoke to our correspondent, and we have details in this report.
How is the security situation in the southwest region?
I want to tell you that the security in the region is fully under control. All the administrations, from the regional administration to the divisional and sub-divisional administrations, are functioning. People are going about their activities.
This was the outcome of this regional security coordination meeting that took place here at the conference hall of the Southwest Governor's Office. The same regional security coordination meeting also revealed that the Southwest is still punctured by activities of separatist fighters, and Southwest Governor Bernardo Kaliabilai called on them to drop their arms.
I want to seize the opportunity of your microphone once more to call our compatriots, our sons and daughters, our brothers who are still hanging around with weapons, to lay down their weapon and come back, to seize the opportunity the head of state, His Excellency President Paul Biya, is giving them, either to join the DRDR Center, either to go back to their families or to settle wherever they want in Cameroon, to contribute for the building of our nation.
The executive officer of the region says Southwest might likely celebrate the end of year with a new Southwest region free of the war.
We'll continue with those efforts, and maybe by the end of this year, while preparing the upcoming CAN, everything in all the corners of our region will be okay, and the crisis will be behind us.
The day also witnessed an award of medals.
Mr. Francois, in the name of the President of the Republic, by the virtue of the powers conferred on us, we now make you Knight of the Cameroon Order of Merit.
Within the framework of the 20th of May 2021, and Boya had 31 recipients. They were promoted in the ranks of Order of Valor, Cameroon Order of Merit, Knight of the Agricultural Merit, and Public Force Medal respectively. The ceremony took place at the Esplanade of the Southwest Governor's Office in Boya.
The fight against insecurity continues in the town of Douala, economic capital of the Republic of Cameroon, where insecurity has been on the high, has been increasing because of some individuals who have decided to be involved in illegal activities, and at least 4 persons have been arrested accused of extorting money from persons, notably top officials, top personalities in the town of Douala. Details in this report by Smanji Kangebre.
There were 4 persons who were presented at the New Bell Gendarmerie Brigade, accused of using the names of top officials to steal from innocent individuals or trying to steal from top officials in the country.
La première fois que nous avons été interpellés, c'est le 8 février.
On February 8th, the SD of Uri called to report to us how someone was using his name to steal from innocent civilians. After a thorough search through the number, the person was located at the Douala Central Prison. Thanks to the collaboration from prison guards, we caught up with the individual.
L'individu était localisé à la prison centrale de Douala, qui n'est autre que M. Bondio Samuel. Il a été menaçant au départ, comme il a fait tout à l'heure. Mais après, il a fini par reconnaître les...
Thanks to a thorough investigation done by the elements of the Gendarmerie Brigade in New Bell, a man by name Samuel, an ex-chief sergeant, was arrested. He accepted the allegations against him acting as the senior divisional officer and trying to steal from other top government officials. He pleads for forgiveness.
En fait, il y a fonction, mais j'espère qu'elle n'a pas tué quelqu'un. Je suis un ancien sergent-chef d'armée qui a été révoqué. Moi, je reconnais ce que j'ai fait par la grâce de Dieu. Et j'ai demandé sincèrement pardon. J'ai escroqué les gens. Oui, j'ai escroqué un personnel militaire parce que moi, j'étais militaire, donc je savais comment y passer.
The 4 arrested, 2 were serving their prison terms at the Douala Central Prison, while 2 others were free citizens collaborating with their friends in prison. Apart from the senior divisional officer of Wuri, whose name was used, Samuel also tried to steal from ministers like Jules Dorendongo, Celestin Kecha-Cotes, and Victor Arimengo.
Autorités traditionnelles, religieuses et administratives par les séparatistes, de diligenter.
Smanji Kangebre reporting there, while others are usurping the titles of some top state officials to extort money from citizens. Others violating court injunctions, allegedly with the backing of some state officials in the Fako division, southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. This is what happened concerning a piece of land that is being disputed in the southwest region's Fako division. And our reporter Davidson Maimo says that land disputes are topping the chart in courts in the Fako division. His report.
If there is any case or cases that has preoccupied the legal department in Fako Division for the past years, is land crisis. From land surrender to communities by the government through the Cameroon Development Corporation, the CDC, community land, state-occupied land, and state new layout, the stories are similar. Land said to be hot cake is dividing the people, igniting hatred and creating enmity, with backstabbing, witch hunting, blackmailing, not leaving out corruption as the order of the day, with the administration entangled in more than 50% of the cases. Case study is a piece of state new layout land located at Maitu along Government High School Limbe, where two persons are on dagger drawn, claiming ownership.
I had 2 wash nights here. When the wash nights saw the number of people that were coming, on 3 motorbikes, they ran and hit themselves. One hit himself on this other side, and one went like that. They called me and told me some guys have come and they're destroying the building. They started this work at 10 minutes, the work of destruction at 10 minutes past 8, and they finished at 9:30.
When I heard him saying that they have come and destroyed his property, I was surprised because I'm following the legal procedure. I'm law-abiding. I know what it means to respect the law. We came here like twice with policemen. When they see the police, they start running away. Each time we come with them, they run away. So we have equipment that the police have seized from them. He says he will buy the justice. Nobody can do him anything.
According to Tangi from Futum George, he is having an allocation document to the set land signed by the senior divisional officer for Fako.
I acquired this place by an allocation letter from the SDO, dated 10th of November 2020.
On the other hand, the brother of Besem Margaret Ayok says the sister has a ministerial decision and a discharge certificate of payment showing proof of ownership.
My sister made all the required payments that she had to do. The government gave this document indicating that the land no longer exists. It belongs now to my sister.
An injunction order by the High Court in Boya for the case to be settled legally is said to have backfired.
Kept on violating the injunction. I had no choice than to go to Procurator in Limbe and make another complaint against him. Police investigator was here in his presence. They said, "Are you aware of the fact that there's an injunction on this land, that both parties are not supposed to come beside this land?" He said no, he's aware, but the SDO has asked him to go ahead and violate it and build. So the investigator asked him, "Are you having any proof from the SDO to permit you violate this injunction?" He said he just told him that forget about it, go ahead and do your construction. So he was just obeying what the SDO said.
While both parties await truth justice come the 16th of June, the case in point is just one out of many within the corridors of courts in Fako Division.
And the COVID-19 funds embezzlement scandal continues bringing pressure to bear on the Cameroon government and the International Monetary Fund, notably from women leaders in the Republic of Cameroon, or Cameroonian women leaders in and out of the country. 11 women's groups have written to the International Monetary Fund after 20 women leaders wrote to the same organization over the COVID-19 funds scandal. And this time around, the women are also highlighting an aspect of corruption and embezzlement linked to the socio-political tensions, indicating that some of the money embezzled may be used to finance the war, or better still, to empower the military to continue fighting in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. Charles Ekome has more.
11 groups of Cameroon women leaders continue mounting pressure on the International Monetary Fund and the Cameroon government over the embezzlement of billions of francs CFA of COVID-19 funds. They are in support of 20 other women who previously wrote to the same institution denouncing the misappropriation of IMF loans. In the letter, the women stress on the fact that gender-based violence and the normalization of corrupt practices has contributed to violence of hundreds of thousands of young girls in the Anglophone regions, including those displaced in other regions and beyond. Moreover, they say the Cameroon government has breached its obligation with damaging consequences to public health due to the increased number of deaths in the past few months as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to them, it is evident that the loan provided to the Cameroon government to fight COVID-19 was misappropriated and embezzled. Furthermore, they also say there are credible reports of atrocities and abuses against women and children committed by the Cameroon military, and they believe the IMF can play a critical role to achieve justice and peace by holding the government accountable and not be viewed as fanning a regime to commit more atrocities by providing more loans that will be embezzled and diverted to fund the military to commit more atrocities. These women also add that there is compelling evidence suggesting that fiscal reforms and accountability provide an incentive for investment, growth, and poverty reduction. According to this group of women, the government must not be granted any loans without a credible audit of past loans and actions taken to hold the various officials accountable.
And one of the women leaders who wrote to the IMF is joining us from the United States of America, Dr. Liliana Tanga, professor of linguistics and critical gender studies, women's rights activist, member of Takumbang, a women's movement striving for peace in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon, member of Southwest Northwest Women's Task Force and the Coalition for Dialogue, or the steering committee of the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation. Dr. Lillian, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're one of the women who wrote recently to the International Monetary Fund over the COVID gate scandal, or better still, the embezzlement of billions of francs CFA of COVID money, largely by some state officials in the Republic of Cameroon. Why are you hindering the country from acquiring more loans to fight the coronavirus?
Thank you, Mr. Babila. Sometimes I think you just ask a question to hear more from me, and I'm going to talk about it. Over the years, Cameroon has taken a lot of loans from the International Monetary Fund, from the World Bank, from China, from France, from England. We are aware of all of these loans. And Cameroon has a lot of natural resources and human resources. Yet, the situation in Cameroon doesn't change. And the majority of the people who bear the brunt of the poverty in Cameroon are women and children. It degenerated to violence in the northwest and southwest regions, in the northern regions of the country, in the eastern regions of the country. And recently, COVID came and made things worse. With COVID, we have women who are internally displaced. We have children who are out of school. We have medical doctors who are dying because they don't have personal protection equipment. And these women's organizations, the little money they have that they could even help the other women and children who are suffering, they spent it contributing to buying personal protection equipment, not only for medical doctors and children and nurses, but also to help the dire situation of women and children. Only to learn that the money that Cameroon borrows, over 180 million, to solve the COVID crisis, to purchase, or not purchase, the Ministry of Scientific Research said they were going to produce drugs. They went and bought drugs from China. They said they bought personal protection equipment, that they bought tests. And all of these are overpriced, and the money goes into the hands of the already rich CPDM members and their friends of the regime. And the poor people of Cameroon are dying of COVID, are dying of poverty. And women are at the forefront. They are the ones bearing all the brunt of the problems that women face. Learning of this embezzlement paint a lot of women. If you look at that list, you will realize that women have said enough is enough. And the first group of 20 women, and you will note that there are award-winning women in that group. You have Maximilian Go, who won an award last year. You have Rebecca Enonchong, you have Judith Mwana, you have Kawala, you have Monique Kwachu, and many other women who wrote. And we said, no, we can't let these 20 women take their necks out. Other women's groups need to come together and join these other women. And we are calling on many more women to come forward and denounce the ills of the government of Cameroon. The women did not do this audit. The government of Cameroon did this audit. President Paul Biya himself ordered the audit. And I am shocked to find CPDM women who participated in embezzling this money to say that Paul Biya is humanistic. Yes, he's humanistic. That's why he ordered the audit.
No, you're adding your voice. You're supporting the other 20 women leaders who wrote to the IMF and the United Nations Security Council over this matter. But there are other Cameroonian women who have said, who have completely rejected that letter earlier written by your fellow women and dissociating themselves completely from that. What do you make of that attitude?
If you read the letter of the 20 women, they specifically state the amounts of money, how it was embezzled, the commitment of the state of Cameroon on how they will spend this money, the accountability mechanisms, which were all violated in the expenses of the COVID funds and other funds. If you read at the Takumbang letter, they reiterate the effects of the embezzlement of this money on women, on children, and all other Cameroonians, especially medical doctors and nurses. If you read the letter of the other so-called, I don't know how they call themselves, women who wrote, the letter is empty. All they say is that Paul Biya is humanistic, they are supporting Paul Biya, female activists who want to find fame, want to destroy the nation, and they say nothing about the accusations. Are they saying an audit wasn't carried out? Is the World Bank telling a lie? Sorry, the IMF, is it telling a lie? Or they just write to cover their heads and protect themselves because they were part of those who embezzled that money, directly or indirectly. We know what they have been doing to render Cameroon a corrupt nation. And the women of Cameroon, who are a majority, have stood up, especially the grassroots women, and say enough is enough. They will not sit and bear the brunt and see their children dying. And even the doctors who could protect their children die. How many doctors have we lost? How many of our parents, our brothers, our sisters, have we lost our children to COVID? How much do we spend to do a COVID test where elsewhere in the world is free? That money was given to alleviate the cost of the test, the treatment, the personal protection equipment. You buy a mask for 500 francs? I mean,
now in Cameroon, it is the medical or surgical mask is sold at 200 francs CFA, but many still think that it is very expensive. In your letter to the IMF, you're making a link between the alleged embezzlement of COVID-19 funds and the security situation in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yes, a lot of the money embezzled cannot be accounted for. Cameroon is not indulging in a dialogue and a negotiation, an inclusive dialogue to solve the multiple armed conflicts that are in the country. We know how much the government is spending on a daily basis to purchase equipment to fight this armed conflict. We know how much military leaders, generals, colonels, are gaining on a daily basis as long as the armed conflict is raging on. And knowing that the government has liquidity problems, there is a high possibility that a large part of this money embezzled is used to fund the armed conflict rather than use it in solving the problem by getting different stakeholders to the table. Cameroon has not made a statement in having an inclusive dialogue. They are going to say they had a major national dialogue. What kind of dialogue? When it was a mono dialogue, a mono word, they spoke by themselves. They didn't include the people, the warlords, the people who are having the problem. They have an excuse that it is the diasporic group that are funding it. But when they go and they bring people like Sisiku and they jail them, giving them life imprisonment, and they expect the other leaders to come to Cameroon to be jailed as well, let them engage in meaningful dialogue in a safe space where everybody feels that they are free to express themselves without being caught and locked up and jailed for life, for requesting simply for justice to be done for the peoples of Southern Cameroons. If justice were there in the first place, perhaps they will not even be asking for a separation. It's because there has been an abuse of the root causes of this thing.
Right, you're talking about the responsibility of the government. You belong to about 3 organizations also striving to contribute in efforts to restore peace and normalcy in those 2 regions. The Takumbang, which is a women's organization, the Northwest Southwest Women's Task Force, and the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation. What have you been doing? What have you done at the level of these organizations?
I have the advantage that I have lived the war firsthand. I've lived the violence. I've been kidnapped. I've met corpses on the way. I've seen people being killed. And because of that, when we started the Northwest Southwest Women's Task Force, it was to say no to the violence. It was to say we do no longer want the killings and the kidnaps and the abuses, the burning of the schools, the raping of our children. I wasn't there for, if you ask me in 2019, the word separation did not come out of my mouth. What I looked for was justice and an end of the abuses. Eventually, I got in contact with these other groups that have the same mission as the Northwest Southwest Women's Task Force. The Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation, if you've heard of them, have a sole mission to enable dialogue and negotiation to sustainably end the conflict, the armed conflict in the 2 regions of the 2 English-speaking regions of Cameroon, the Southern Cameroons. And that is why I belong to that group. The group is negotiating with all the stakeholders, all, including even the Republic of Cameroon, to come to table. We engage with international stakeholders, with international partners, with local partners, local organizations, individual activists, such that we can end this violence because we are the direct victims. Women are dying, children are dying, young boys are dying, children are not going to school. People are displaced, they are refugees out of the country. And now COVID has come and added to it. How can a woman, a mother, who has lived through the violence, sit quiet and watch? When Cameroonians say, "Medicine end," how does it end if somebody doesn't stake their neck out for the good of the majority? And I and many other women, grassroots women on the ground, who face threats on a daily basis, women in the diaspora who face threats on a daily basis, who get insulted on a daily basis, they stake their necks out for there to be justice and peace sustainably in Cameroon.
Right, Dr. Lilian Atanga, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babila.
On to something else now. The governor of the West region, Awa Fonka Augustine, interrupts a festival, a cultural festival in the West region of the country in anger over the non-respect of anti-COVID-19 measures. Details in this report by Equinoxe.
All of these children are not wearing face masks. All of you, return to where you are coming from. Angry Governor Awa Fonka Augustine at the Bamungum Palace Arena. I must emphasize that barrier measures must be respected during this cultural festival. Honestly, I am not happy with what my eyes are seeing. Invited to attend the closing ceremony of this cultural festival of the grassfield people, the administrative authority is shocked as COVID-19 barrier measures are not respected, whereas the situation of the coronavirus pandemic remains preoccupying in his area of command.
Celui qui a emmené ses enfants ici, rentrez avec ses enfants.
Whosoever has brought these children here should return with them. They will only be allowed here if they wear their face mask. I cannot tolerate this. Go back. Go back to where you are coming from and come back here only when you have a face mask on. I have statistics of COVID-19 deaths in this region. People are dying every day. Hours later, the tension faded out with normalcy reigning, permitting the Bamungum people to exhibit parts of their cultural heritage. The 2021 edition of the Bamungum Cultural Festival, according to His Majesty Fotso Mitterrand, will not only permit the Bamungum people to return to their fundamental rules, marking their existence, but above all, perpetuate a tradition as old as about 718 years. This cultural festival is the first under the reign of the new king of the Bamungum people.
The United Nations humanitarian chief Mark Lowcock has said there is famine in northern Ethiopia after the release of a United Nations-backed analysis of the situation. He said, I quote, "There is famine now." He said, adding that this is nothing, or this is going to get a lot worse. The Integrated Phase Classification IPC found that 350,000 people were living in severe crisis in the war-torn Tigray region, as well as neighboring Amhara and Afar. And Tigray has been devastated by fighting between government forces and rebels. Talking Point is up next. Today we are receiving a civil society activist, Son Derek. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Babila Jonathan, for putting the trust in me, and thanks to the million viewers of Equinoxe Television. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're an accountant, but today we are receiving you as a civil society activist, and we're talking about a young man in the Njombe Penja, in the Mongo division, arrested for expressing his anger over what is happening in the country, over the situation, the precarious situation in which young people are living today. And in doing this, he used offensive words against the President of the Republic and the government or members of government. And he was picked up after that. What do you think about this?
Actually, Babila Jonathan, it's a sad situation. You know, the situation in Cameroon is pathetic because The people who are afraid of truth are those who have spent their life living and believing in lies telling. And that's the problem we have with the regime. You know, arresting someone for an outburst of reality, speaking truth, is not unpatriotic. He has said what he feels and what is true. And what the regime should do is to see how truthful he has said what it is. Arresting him will not solve the problem. The problem we have in Cameroon is that those who are real thieves have been baptized as saints and are sitting in air-conditioned offices, while those who are in nonsense and speaking the truth are getting rotten in jails for just simply saying what should be done and what ought to be done. I listened to the video of the young man. Perhaps the words he used could have been very, very much derogatory, but he spoke the truth to say that he cannot be working from 6 to 6 and he's paid 32,000 francs a month, and people go to their offices and sit from 8 to perhaps 3 o'clock and still embezzle billions of francs CFA, and they are walking down our streets like saints. It's horrible. And I think the young man spoke out of frustration. A country like Nigeria that believes in liberation, I think all the comedians in Nigeria should have been in prison because they feel free. Recently, we saw on social media the slap dashed on the face of Macron in France. It's frustration. And
the person who did that has been sentenced to 4 months imprisonment.
Sentenced to 4 months, which is minor. The one in Cameroon will be missing. If care is not taken, the one in Cameroon will be missing. And to the Cameroon government, I think if you should address a citizen, a youth, for just an outburst of frustration, which is true, then perhaps living out of this studio, I may be arrested outside, because the Cameroon government has failed in every facet of the definition fail. I think we should not misquote words. The definition of patriotism in Cameroon should not be misquoted to praise singing. That you praise the government does not mean you are patriotic. In fact, we should be clear to understand that for this country to grow, it is a collective effort for all of us to build. And if somebody sees something that is frustrating and says it the way it is, he should not be arrested for speaking the truth.
But is there not a problem with the derogatory words, addressed to top members, top state officials, including the head of state and the ministers, the members of government, and so on?
Like I said, Babila, that perhaps we cry for the choice of words that he uses. There was a time, there is this crisis, the Southern Cameroon crisis that is going on. And out of frustration, someone has termed those who are fighting for the liberation of Southern Cameroon as terrorists. That got them angry. And I think his expression, the choice of words, could be very harsh, but it doesn't cancel the fact that he spoke truth to authority. He said it very clean and clear that he works so long and is paid less, and there are people who embezzle money. And this is not only the situation of COVID-19. We are talking of 180 billion francs CFA of COVID-19 money that is working in the pockets of some private individuals, and the people are walking down the street like saints. Those who have embezzled money are walking down the street like saints, and somebody out of frustration, out of anger, airs out his mind and he's arrested. I think those who masterminded the arrest should be arrested for being unpatriotic to the country, because what he is saying is what millions of Cameroonians are undergoing, what they are feeling, the frustration in their minds, and it is unfair to arrest somebody just because he has said the truth.
Now, away from that, there is more and more there is an increase in the involvement of young people in violence. In the town of Douala, for example, there is the microbe phenomenon that is increasing and moving from one neighborhood to the other. What's the problem here?
Yeah, we've heard with a very heavy heart the increase in the microbes, the movement. I think last year we got aggressed right in Bonaberry. We got to witness. We've seen where the arrest is. But I want to make it clear that the juvenile delinquency, what is happening is a collective effort. You know, it's a failure that is to be shared between parents, schools, and the government, because I will not shift it directly to the government. But if you want to take it to the larger scale, you realize that Cameroon is plagued by multiple crises and there is that influx of southern Cameroonians to the French-speaking sections of the country, and this is leading to high crime waves, and there is much of so much deployment of security forces to the far north to face the Boko Haram insurgency to the east, and then there is also the increased deployment of military, police, and gendarme officers to southern Cameroonians,
to the northwest and southwest regions.
I prefer it southern Cameroonians, which is documented.
As of now, we have northwest and southwest regions.
I think, Babila, you got me here as a guest, and I should quote it southern Cameroon as it is. It is a baptism name that is given.
Former southern Cameroon. As of now, we have northwest.
If you have to force those words into my mouth, let me say southern Cameroon, and then you put former. That's very okay.
We are talking about young people in Douala.
Yes, I'm saying that it's general. It's something that is a spillover effect. The military officials, we are talking about Carrefour Dokoti, New Bell, Marché Central, Mokolo in Yaoundé, where these security forces should have been present on stage or at the scene to make sure that this is mitigated. But because there is an increase in the sending of these people to northwest and southwest, to the far north region, as you have insisted, the increase has led to, you know, lack of officials, lack of security personnel to maintain the peace we have.
Right, thank you very much, Son Derek. Thank you for your time. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Equinoxe is up next.